Look, so when I've been looking at the signet, the swan, the star constellation, so it actually, funnily enough, it is very, very similar to that hill fort, the dragon hill fort. Now, other constellations next to that signet and near it are the Draco one, which the Draco one looks more like a snake than a dragon, but the actual constellation is snake-shaped. And that's also next to the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, which are meant to be part of the bears. The thing with the dragon, right? Look at the word origin, right? He was complaining to me that like it's all Latin, but Howard Crowhurst's all his evidence points back to like before the even Latin were even putting stuff down in writing, like even before Latin even started writing. The Greek, right? This is important. The Greek is Dracon, but it means serpent, not actually dragon with wings, really, like we think of a dragon. It actually is serpent. And the Draco constellation is just a big snake. But the word serpent, it's Old French, is used for like how we kind of have it as a dragon. Like when you got the Welsh dragon, the thing with that important hill fort, which isn't even in Wales, it's actually near Exeter, is that the main part of it is like a massive snake anyway, but with the whole of it, it's like got his wings stretched out. It does fit both, really, of the symbols of both those constellations of dragon and serpent, but also of the swan one as well, which is interesting. Middle English also denoting a large serpent, a big serpent. Now, one of the very, very interesting things about Draco, or dragon, look at the spelling of it in Greek, Drakon. If you just change the first letter to a C, it's Kraken. Right? The Kraken, which in Greek mythology, everyone's seen like, the Greek mythology, films like Jason Argonauts and all of the ones with the stop animation, they actually have the constellations in that film. It's the main one that you watch as a kid when you like really learn about the constellations from that film, when they got Medusa in there and everything. But the Kraken is at the end of it. The Kraken is literally a huge, gigantic beast which is beneath the waves or beneath the ocean if you awaken the Kraken. Now, if anyone is listened to or watched Terence McKenna, they explain or describe the whole deep psychedelic experience as like a gigantic beast, really. Like it's almost like the whole, like, how you describe the Matrix as the beast, basically, because it is like a scaled creature in a way. Some people do refer to that experience as the goddess, the mother goddess, but it has like the way they talk about scales, because all of the patterns and all of the imagery has this kind of like scaled motif, which is like what I've said is on the front cover of that Spirit Molecule book. But if you've kind of had a go at it yourself, that is what it's like. But all of those triangles on that stone at Newgrange, all those triangles on that stone, which I'm talking about, with like the the pixels that your eyes are made out of, that you can see them sometimes when you stand up and you feel a bit funny, like all the little tiny triangles that make your vision, right? They are the kind of like building blocks of the vision. You can't strip down any further than them, because they are like the fundamental basic receptors which your vision's made out of. It's like literally like, you know, the shape of, you know, it's you know, everyone's got fingers, toes, everyone's molded into a certain biological form. You're like set in stone basically to, you know, like, and that's the thing, those receptors in your eyes, all the parts of your vision, you know, you can have light, dark, you can have different various visionary images or hallucinations or dreams or whatever, but no matter what changes in your vision, you can't break it down any further than those triangular things, right? And it's really when those start showing in different colours and then start kind of like, you know, it's another way of describing it is like, you know, like when they used to have the, you know, like on your television when it all goes static, all like goes fuzzy, and you stare at it, sometimes like you get swirls in it or shapes in it, and then like fingers can, if you just look at it, you can see certain shapes forming and then going back into it. That's kind of literally basically how it is when it's kind of recalibrated and breaks down all the vision anyway. But then there are other effects as well. But some of the effects, like, I don't know, some people, you know, from LSD, which is kind of, it plays around with the vision in a slightly different way, because you get the other effects besides sort of like the pixels and the shadow and the light playing with each other. You can get these like odd repeated effects. So like, let's say for example, you know, like if you, you know, like, have you ever seen like when you point a camera at the television, like you're filming the TV and then you point it at the TV and then it just like goes like a TV in 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 a TV, and it kind of like goes on for infinity. So like it's a TV screen within a TV screen within a TV screen within a TV screen within a TV screen, like effects like that. Kind of like, I'd say like repeat stamp effects, you know, like if you get like a, if you get like a stamp, right, and you stamp it on paper, but then you stamp it again, then stamp it again, then stamp it again, then stamp it again, and you've just kind of like got this like overlap of stamps, like a repeat pattern. Sometimes your vision can do that with things like LSD and stuff like that. So you get these kind of like, what'll happen is like your eyes will imprint something, like something that you've seen, but then that thing it'll imprint in your vision, but then it will repeat itself again and again and again and again and again and again. Actually, I've just remembered, so one of the other visual effects is like a repeating pattern. If you know that Shiva character, you know, like you get those Indian characters with like multiple arms. They've also got one of those in that film as well, I mentioned, with multiple arms. I think it might be in Jason and the Argonauts. So all of those Indian, they're mainly in the Hindu religion, and you've got all these like multiple arms, right? Loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of arms, right? Well, when you have that Banistopris capi plant, which is like one of the components of ayahuasca, it also works with this plant called harmine as well, which is like that Syrian rue. It's actually a Syrian plant, Syrian rue, and it has the very similar effects to the ayahuasca. But you get these, like when you have that, you have like when you move your arm, right? So if you get your arm out in front of you and then you sort of like move it, then it just leaves loads of trailers behind it. So you have like, you know, you've just got loads and loads of your arm, just all repeated, like just like in front of your vision. That is, there's no doubt at all whatsoever. I mean, it's absolutely 100% certain that those Hindu religions that have all these characters with multiple arms and so forth, that religion originated from the Syrian rue plant, because those are the type of visions you get with it. Although it's called Syrian rue, but you know, you're not far off going into India that way, and I don't know how that ended up particularly with the Indian religion, but it did. And that actually, if you, it is one of the components for ayahuasca, and it actually makes the other component work a lot stronger, which is the component DMT, which is very similar to like mushrooms, but without the oxygen molecules on it. But so that is related to the Hindu religion. That's there are loads of other different effects, but you see, these plants get you interested in all different kinds of modulation of the senses, and it gets people sat there contemplating about vision. You know, how does my vision work? You know, what is it constructed of? What are the different components of it? And, you know, and how is it even functioning? You know, really, you can't, if you want to know how a photocopy machine works, really, you've got to open it up and look inside it. You've got to take it to bits, and, you know, anything you're curious about in life, if you want to learn about it, you have a look at it, don't you? You know, you ain't, you know, you can use a photocopy machine all you want, you know, and get, you know, print out of it. But to know how it works, you have to look inside it. You have to open it up. And that doesn't not necessarily mean just like, you know, butchering it or stripping it down and looking at it like as a doctor would, you know, surgically. It also means like when you go inside, you're like going inside your mind, you know. I mean, a lot of this is, you know, people have talked about this before, but not a lot of people have, you know, actually been interested in things like Syrian and stuff like that. But it's absolutely certain. You know, and I know on that new grainstone, those triangles are related to the vision and the building blocks of the vision and sight, but also to the symbolic to fundamental truths. How I best explain a lot of those icons is they're symbolic and representations of certain fundamental truths, certain fundamental ideals and concepts. They're true to fundamental underlying mathematical truths and mathematical concepts that apply to things, objects, and also to thought and things like that. But also as well, you know, you've got to, you know, what do you do with knowledge? You know, make observations of things. What do you do with the eyes? You know, when you learn, you know, what your vision is, you know, you look out into the world and make observations with it. That's what you do with a printer. A printer's there to print off paper, right? Your eyes are there to make observations out of things, to look at things, to look at the stars, to observe the stars, to make records of the stars, to make records of the motions, right? But, you know, as well as, you know, firing out, you know, as well as making observations of things and recording it, you can also, you know, having a photocopy machine and knocking out pictures, that's what it does. You can also, you know, strip it down and take it to bits and have a look inside it and find out how it works. Right, that is really essentially what these sites are about. They're about not only observations on the outside, but also how things work on the inside, including, you know, actual thought itself and concepts like mathematical concepts, you know, 1 and 0, and, you know, what happens when you haven't got anything. Well, it's difficult to have nothing when you have something. This is why they had that Riemann's problem with maths, because he was trying to work out something on paper, this like -1 position. But once you go into minus, when you start going -1, -2, -3, -4, you're actually creating things. You're not making nothing, you're making something. If you've got like one thing on a table and you take something away, there's nothing on the table. Everything else, when you go into minus, doesn't really exist, because once you've taken away the apple, there is nothing there. So you can't have -1 apple because there is nothing there. It's a concept. So when you create the concept of -1, instead of having nothing, you've got something, because -1 is an idea, a thought, it's something, so is -2. and it goes onto like paper when you write down 0 on paper, it's not nothing because you've written down 0. It's something. You've made something. You've created something. So, like, you know, that is basically that I think is a lot to do with that Riemann's problem. And it's almost like in space, you know, the temperature 0. When you have temperatures like +1 Celsius or -1 Celsius, it's only a mark on a you know, it's only like a position, like, you know, pole position. It's a position on a pole or on a scale. In space, you can have temperatures that go, you know, minus thousands or whatever, or plus thousands, depending on however hot you want. Where do you decide what is 0? In temperature, 0 is just a temperature. Because if you can have like -1,000 and +1,000 or +2,000, or there's no limit to how high or low you can go, who's to say what actually is 0? But it's not nothing. It's not that, you know, 0 is not the absence of a temperature. 0 is a temperature on a scale of temperatures. They just start calling it, you know, after you go past what they name 0, then they name that -1. But it's only a temperature, which is, you know, the next temperature. It's not, you know, it's not nothing. It's not like having no temperature. So, I guess that's it, really. But, you know, there's not really... I just wanted to mention this. I wanted to actually talk about the Draco thing, the dragon thing. I'm starting to think about the Welsh flag now, really. There's a channel called... I forgot what it's called now. Cambrian Chronicles. He makes really good videos. He's done a video on the Welsh dragon. But really... he goes quite far back, and apparently that was the main flag of... they were using that flag for Britain at one point, going really far back. I think, so, like, you know, before the conquest, maybe. So, but really, that it actually means serpent dragon. I guess that's when the Christians chased all the snakes and pagans out, you know. Maybe that's when maybe the Welsh dragon was serpent. But instead, there's a lot to do with that hill fort at Exeter, because it is quite symbolic. It's so big. It's bigger than Maiden Castle, including the whole parts of it. I mean, you have got... there is Pegasus as well, which is meant to be a horse. And they've got that kind of like horse at Uffington. I really, really, really think that, you know, those constellations are extremely, extremely old. Very, very, very old. Like, you know, older than all of the Greek, you know, older than the Greek language, older than, you know, writing, and older than Greek, right, going really, really, really far back into just oral traditions. That's why I think all the symbols that they've kind of kept, you know, like the horse and so forth, are really, really important. But anyway, that's just my opinion.